Hello and welcome back to the Level Up Lounge. I'm John. I've got Michael here with me today, and we have a really exciting guest that we're keen to introduce to you. So, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Domenik Maier, CEO of iBLOXX Studios here in Dubai. Dominic, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you. Pleasure having me.
No, we've been looking forward to having you on the show. Wanted to explore more about iBLOXX, which we're going to talk about today. I want to talk about your upcoming title and just explore what it's been like for you building a game studio here in Dubai. But to start with, I kind of wanted to get a bit of an introduction into iBLOXX. So obviously, can you just tell us a bit of the story of how it's come about? Because you don't have a traditional game development background.
Yeah.
So to be now one of the sort of leaders within developing games here in Dubai, keen to understand where that came from.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's spot on. So I come personally from a quantitative finance and investment background. And this quant finance background itself is actually what led us into the pure game development. It started back with our Web3 experience and crypto experience. So I've been in the Web3 space since end of 2016. At that time, I was still at Credit Suisse in a leading position, and started to explore crypto and Web3, and then founded iBLOXX mainly as a Web3 company. Quantitative trading company per se, and in that time we actually started to look a lot into cryptocurrency tokens and token economies per se, where our know-how in quantitative finance and algorithmic trading was obviously quite beneficial. So we started to do a lot of free consulting for essentially Dua-based startups in the token economy space, and then obviously this became massive. We had to basically turn down 99% of all the inquiries that we have got, and then the whole metaverse and gaming in Web3 completely exploded in 21 and right thereafter. And gaming economies are incredibly complex if you forget the Web3 aspect, right? Like in general, if you do an RPG game or a shooter game or whatever, these game economies can be really, really complex, and balancing is quite difficult. A whole nother layer of complexity will be added if you have a tradable item there. And this is where we had a very, very strong understanding, very strong foundation. And at that time, we just started to build the game mainly as a test of how these token economies function and so on. This has been, quite a few years ago already, and we started building StrayShot pretty much 3 years ago on the day. So yeah, this is how it all came about.
Perfect. So obviously we want to talk all about StrayShot and the upcoming release of that at the moment. But for you, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but to go into creating a sort of a multiplayer sort of shooter game, is that something that you ever thought throughout your career that this is something I might end up doing? Like, obviously you must have a passion for gaming deep within you. But
yeah, no. Yeah.
When you were going through the roles and even doing what you were doing here in Dubai when you first launched, was that ever a pipe dream of yours at all?
It was, honestly, yeah. I was always looking into it. I was like, man, I would love to build games. That's something, but it was not like something. It was not like, oh, there's a business plan right now. Let's start building games, right? But as a gamer from the very, very early days on. I mean, I started gaming when I was, 5-6 years old. That was the mid-70s, right? With, classic adventure titles like Maniac Mansion or The Secret of Monkey Island and these kind of games. So hooked all my life about gaming, right? But not clearly planned. It literally came from looking at the Web3 market of crypto and games and seeing all the challenges that were there, and they were obviously mediocre games at the beginning, but don't want to sound too negative because it initiated a huge wave in 2021. But lots of these games would have failed not just because the gameplay didn't hold up, and not because just the user experience didn't hold up, because if you have to start with, set up a wallet, install MetaMask, and then pay for gas fees and transactions and all of that, those are all problems that, in my opinion, you have no chance if you go in this direction. But the third one, and this is an absolutely vital one, is the game economy itself, right? If you're just plainlessly issuing a cryptocurrency, which always needs to have some sort of utility, whether it be buying skins or buying characters or whatever it is, but if you're not able to look at this from a quantitative data point of view, right, then inherently you'll just start issuing way too much of these cryptocurrencies, will be hyperinflated, and ultimately the whole game economy will completely collapse. And in our opinion, this would have happened with every single game, no matter what the crypto market did. So no matter if Bitcoin topped out in November 2021 at like 20,000 or 19,800 or something like that, and then really retracting to like $3,000, that doesn't matter because Bitcoin obviously carries down all the other currencies, right? But these games, the Web3 games, they would have imploded on their own because of mainly the wrong token economies behind, right? So we have been playing around with that for quite some time. And shooter games, I'm a big shooter game guy, right? So I play all the shooter games, essentially. I have some favorites. I have some that I don't like that much. I mean, I have the PUBG guy here. So, yeah, this is a bit about...
No, good. And I want to explore how you found building out a game studio in Dubai. Now, there hasn't been an abundance of game studios in Dubai.
Yep.
Let alone we've not had that big success studio here in Dubai. How have you found building that here? Because obviously when I talk to a lot of studios, talk to people overseas, they have a concern around talent, costs, whatever it might be. I think which are all fair to that point.
Yeah.
But I want to explore from you how you've found building that out from the ground up, bringing that talent on board and building a game that you're ultimately going to be very proud of when it releases.
I think Dubai and the UAE is the best place, not just to build a company and a tech business, in my opinion, also to live, right? Like, I mean, there's not many countries and not many cities in the world that provide what Dubai and the UAE is putting together and is providing in terms of general infrastructure, safety, the quality of life that you can have here. So there's certainly a private aspect to that, I would say. And then when you look at the business side of it, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine another place where you have more opportunity. Right? You mentioned other gaming studios are facing, like access to talent, for example, right? Where this might be difficult. Yeah, this is difficult when you look at that the big AAA studios are not here yet, right? And I say specifically yet because, in my opinion, they will come. It needs one or two titles coming out of the region to really, I think, attract the big players. But access to talent here is, in my opinion, a huge benefit. It's not just because you can relocate anyone, right? Try to do that in Europe, for example. I've been relocating I'm Austrian, but I've been relocating from Switzerland. If I wanted to be in Switzerland, and iBLOXX, we have a branch in Liechtenstein, for example. If I wanted to hire someone from a non-European Union country, it's impossible, right? So you have no chance, right? So you can only hire in-country and European Union there, and it's really, really difficult, right? Versus here, you can essentially bring over anyone, right? Like, so relocation is super easy, but the access to talent that you have here, in my opinion, is massive. When you post a job ad, and this was actually how it came about of us really making the decision to essentially move everything here, because iBLOXX is based in Bulgaria, in Liechtenstein, although we're closing that down, and here. And we move everything to Dubai. And the reason at that time was the decision, we posted job ads. The amount of applications that we have received within 24 to 48 hours is mind-blowing, right? For any position. This can be traditional positions or admin assistant stuff. Of course, there you'll be overflowing with applications, but software development or even game development, we have received so many more applications in the UAE, in Dubai, than in Europe. It's mind-blowing, right? It's literally a factor of 50 to 1, right? Of course, it comes with challenges because you need to be able to sort through all of those applications. And yes, in Europe, you probably get, on average, from 100 applications, there is more qualified people of the absolute number. Yeah, but in Dubai or in the UAE, I get 1,000 applications, right? So at the end, if I'm willing to do the work or working with great firms like yours, there's clearly, in my opinion, there's a benefit. So access to talent to us, massive advantage, right? In addition, gaming and Web3 obviously goes through regulations and things like that, needed, clearly, right? UAE government, super supportive and innovative, right? They're like literally pro-innovation. And of course, regulation is needed, and they have been catching up or been actually one of the leaders in regulation as well. But overall, you have a supportive government, right? I mean, when you look at the US as the main market with Gary Gensler at the SEC, he was literally against any innovation, right? Like, and that's not supportive, right? So government support is another big thing. Access to capital here. We did our seed Series A round 2 years ago in the worst environment that you could actually imagine at that time, and we raised from within DMCC. So our lead investors, we raised $5 million at that time to build out StrayShot. We already had like an MVP running and a proof of concept, but we raised within DMCC, right? So we didn't even really, I mean, we had a couple of outside investors as well, but it mainly within the MCC. So access to capital, another big reason. So being here is like, we're super blessed. We're grateful to be here.
Perfect. So you mentioned DMCC there. Obviously, both iBLOXX and ourselves are both a part of the sort of the ecosystem. How have you found the support of DMCC helping you grow, and obviously then incorporating you into a wider gaming community?
Yeah, great, right? Because I would say Bilal Sahar from the gaming center and crypto center, under the leadership of Ahmed, I mean, it doesn't get any better in terms of support that you get, right? I mean, they make introductions, they support you in terms of promotions, connect you with other gaming studios. So to us, this was completely unexpected, right? It was not something that we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get support from a free zone. No, normally you're like, okay, I set up the company here, and please, help me get the paperwork in order, right? But the whole team of the DMCC Gaming Center and Crypto Center is super supportive. So to us, this great.
Perfect. So I want to sort of then touch on maybe your vision for Web3 and blockchain gaming going forward.
Yeah.
How do you see blockchain shaping the future of multiplayer games? Now, I ask this question, there is a lot of skeptics to Web3 gaming. We've had skeptics on this show when it comes to Web3 gaming. And I think there's a lot of skeptics from within the industry from a development perspective. I know challenges that me and probably Michael have faced where you reach out to a developer, you mention it's got a Web3 element, and they immediately will shut you down and say no. Or they'll even have it written in their profile, do not contact me about Web3 gaming. So it has a stigma attached to it, which I feel over a period of time will change. But I wanted to understand from you, someone who's actively developing in that space, how you see the future of it.
I mean, first of all, the stigma, I think, is real, what you mentioned, right? Especially more in the Western markets than in the Southeast Asian markets. I think there it's not like that, or at least not that strong. But it's also rightfully so, right? When you look at the past, I mean, tell me one really good crypto game, right? Web3 game didn't exist, right? And but it's unfair because look how young and how new the market is, right? And we have spoken about this before. The complexity of a Web3 game is so much more than of a traditional game, because the blockchain infrastructure is in itself, right, is something that inherently complex. And right now, when you look at the innovation cycle of any technology, right, at the beginning, it's always like complexity. And this first, you need to solve the complexities, and then it will come standard, right? So my vision of Web3 gaming is not how it will do or how it, in 10 years, you will not talk about blockchain and Web3 gaming anymore because it will be automatically there. I totally believe there will be no games as today, no matter if it's multiplayer or single player. Doesn't really matter, because even single player games, there's lots of benefits of utilizing blockchain, right? Like it starts with security. I mean, single player accounts have been hacked. Blockchain infrastructure provides a lot of safety, right? Much more than normal standard loggings. So in my opinion, we will see a complete migration towards only Web3 gaming, and you will not talk about Web3 anymore. It will become standard, right? Like it's the underlying technology. Nothing to talk about there in specifics of how to implement this and that and what's the benefit. I think it will become natural.
What would you say excites you most about Web3 gaming?
I would say the close connection to the community, right? So one of the big benefits of Web3 is players inside a game economy, essentially, will become part of it, right? Like you will own a small stake of it, whether that be used for buying some assets is one thing, but also, you know, you as a studio, you finally know, okay, these are the guys that are currently really holding these amount of currencies inside it, and they can then vote on certain gaming development. And just the aspect of being close to the community, I think, will be the main, for me, the main part of it that we will really enjoy, right? Because we're already very close to our community. I mean, I'm in our Discord regularly. Everybody can ping me there, and I'll normally answer pretty instant normally. And that's amongst the workload that we have, which is quite extensive. But I think that aspect of it is fantastic, which is underrated completely, right? All the others, the other benefits that we're talking about is you are able to share some of the revenues that you as a gaming publisher and a gaming studio make with the community itself, right? It also opens up new monetization ways for when you go back in the whole gaming history, right? When we were all young, happy birthday, by the way, John.
Thank you very much.
Right. Back in the day, I mean, you had to buy a console game, right? It was like, okay, here's $40. And at that time, I'm talking about the floppy disks, and then later on came consoles, free to play, right? There's always these new trends setting in. And I feel like going from the free to play, the previous trend that we see in mobile, to something where players are able to re-earn part of the revenue, I think this will become standard as well.
I'm wondering, so there's the economic side of things, right? What about the kind of like almost political side of things of a community like interacting in a kind of democratic manner with the game?
I mean, that's what I meant with being close to the community, right? Like in Web3 and crypto, you talk about decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, right? And a DAO is literally almost like a country with a government, right? Like where you elect certain leaders, these leaders have higher voting rights. Often these elections are done via, if John has X amount of tokens, right, he can give you his vote, and then you could accumulate actually more votes, and then you can actually represent part of the community, right? And then we will have a discussion. We say, look, I mean, this is a priority for the next release cycle. We want to implement this, this, and this. Which one do you guys like more, right? And then you represent a part of the community, or the whole community can decide on that. And that's stuff that doesn't happen right now in traditional gaming. I'm not saying that this will be completely without the say of developers, because I think that's we're not there yet, right? That's also risky in that sense, because not every gamer has the best interest of the game in mind, and also it needs a lot of know-how, right? But it's absolutely fantastic to get that kind of feedback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that what you were saying there, and I was recently at a talk from Yat from Animoca, and he made this very valid point about sharing revenues somewhat through Web3 gaming that you don't get with traditional gaming. And I know through playing FIFA and your Ultimate Teams, I will throw money at it on a yearly basis. What do I get in return from that? Nothing. So I think that if you can create a model, and we're talking down the line where it becomes more widely adopted, where that Web3 label isn't there, that label doesn't exist, it's just a game, but that's part of it, and you are able to invest and take back some of that, I think adds a lot of value to a gamer that's spending hard-earned cash within a game. Because a lot of Web 2 games, if we're going to label stuff nowadays, there is in-game purchases. There is, do you want to buy this skin? And I think Call of Duty's gone completely in that direction, where every other day there's a different gun that's a different colour, that's got a different skin, that's got a different laser, or whatever it might be. The amount of money it's extracting from gamers, and then the next game comes out and everything that you've spent disappears. And especially when you're on a game such as a Call of Duty or a FIFA, where it's a 1-year cycle, that doesn't last very long. And some of these more, I would say, Web3 type games are going down the direction, and maybe something like your game is going to go down the direction of, say, a PUBG or a CSGO that's going to be played for years upon years upon years. So that investment piece has a lot more value attached to it. And now we want to talk about your game. Obviously, your upcoming title, which is in beta mode at the moment, is StrayShot. So I want to talk about it. What makes it unique, and what boundaries do you think it's pushing in its particular genre?
I would say I would start with visual quality, because we're building on Unreal Engine, and there's a lot of, I would say, techniques that you can enhance visuals appeal. I think this is where it starts. So when I don't believe that any gamer that would open up our game on mobile would be like, oh, this doesn't look good. No, they will be, I mean, then I don't think it would be honest, right? Because I think visuals are stunning.
I've seen your game, and it does look very impressive.
Thank you. So I think that's the first appearance that you get, right? But then we have a very narrative-driven game per se. So we obviously in StrayShot you can play team deathmatches, you can play battle royals, and then you qualify for extraction shooters. But all of this is integrated into a pretty deep storyline, and not just from cinematics and all of that, but inside the gameplay as well. So, for example, our battle royale is not a normal battle royale; it's like a hostage rescue. So you actually fight against the cartel of El Fuego in South America in a imaginary world, essentially, and you fight against the cartel of El Fuego. Santiago Morales is his name, and he captured one of the resistance leaders, Sofia. So you have to try to find Sofia on this battle royale map, and then free her, and then bring her to the safe house, and then you essentially win the match. Or in the extraction shooter, the goal is then there you'll even fight bosses amongst other multiplayer games, where you fight against Santiago. You'll probably not be able to defeat him immediately, but if you do, you can then extract encrypted hard drives. Those encrypted hard drives show the drug trafficking routes of the cartel, right? And then you can hand it in, and you get like rewards for that, right? So everything is very story-driven, narrative-driven. From our perspective, in a very high quality. But besides that, I think we have a very strong metagame, right? So when you play games, there always needs to be a reason, and the reason is not, oh, I want to win this match, right? That's just the core gameplay of it. But the whole metagame outside of it is probably more important than the match itself or the fighting actions, right? So in our metagame, what happens is you have a pretty strong loop that regularly you have to qualify for. So you start with the battle royale and team deathmatches. You then essentially qualify for the extraction shooter, and this is the only way. In extraction shooters, obviously, if you get killed, you lose your loot, right? Yeah. So your weapon is gone, right? And you can only take in weapons that you have actually leveled up. Everything is free. It's just, it requires some playtime that you need to do. Yeah. So the metagame of itself, of StrayShot, we feel like is very interesting. And it's all combined from an aspect of planning with Web3 behind, right? Because if you're introducing cryptocurrency and tradable items, I mentioned it increases the layers of complexity significantly, right? So you need to make sure that supply and demand is very well managed, right? And extraction shooters are pretty good for that. For example, in StrayShot, you will only be able to carry 3 main weapons, right? You can carry other items as well, but the main items are the weapons. And if you come into the match with 3 weapons, and Michael comes in the match with 3 weapons, and Michael, you kill John, you can only carry 3 weapons, right? So 6 weapons go in, but you pick up 3 only, and you drop yours. So you have a natural sink, which gamers are totally fine with, right? Because everybody who plays extraction shooters will not complain, oh, I lost my weapon, because that's part of the game loop, right? And so on. This is then a way for us to manage supply and demand for the community itself, right? So all of this has been planned to that aspect. So it's quite unique, right? And of course, we are trying to solve the Web3 problems in general, right? Like, the gameplay needs to hold up. That's a prerequisite. You will not be successful in Web3 gaming if the gameplay doesn't hold up. So that, I think, is a prerequisite needed. But the other aspects are like, the user onboarding experience, right? We're not going to our user and telling them, hey, look, you need to now install MetaMask and whatever wallet, and now you need to pay for gas fees. We handled everything for you, right? So when you install the game, a wallet is generated for you automatically. You have full custody. There is no access from us there. So if you lose your device, or you throw away your PC, or you're not diligent, right? That's up to the player himself. And then we pay for all the gas fees behind, right? So everything is very Web 2-like, right? That it's all standard. So there's a lot of unique pieces there that I would say give us hopefully an edge.
No, perfect. And you were talking about the narrative there, of the story, and how it's quite story driven.
Yeah.
as a founder, how involved have you been in creating that narrative?
Wow, very much.
Yeah.
So no,
The
very
way you were
much.
telling it there, I could tell that was something that you've
Yeah.
almost.
No,
This is my story in a way.
I have written the storyline
Yeah.
together with the team, of course, right?
Yeah.
But we speak about it. But I was very much involved. I mean, I'm very much involved in the whole creative direction and game design per se, right? Like especially on the economy side, of course, as well, but also overall, right? And we play within the team, obviously, and the benefit is, I mean, I would say 70% of our team are hardcore gamers, right? So it's, in Call of Duty, we don't like this. In Fortnite, this is the best aspect of it, right? So we discuss all of these things, and we are pretty, I think only one guy, Mamoon, he's a big Dota fan, but everybody else is like only playing shooters in our team, right? So that helps,
What inspires you?
I think make a difference, right? Like, so when we set out to build this game, for us it was like, okay, I mean, Web3 gaming, there's so many benefits there. Rightfully so, it doesn't have the reputation where it should be yet, right? Because that's of the past, right? You will always find, in new markets, you will always find bad actors there. But I think making a difference there for the people that work with us, our team, our community and players, but also for the industry itself in Web3 and gaming to get away from this negative stigma, right? That, all Web3 games are not good and are crap. And so I feel like if there's titles coming out like StrayShot and others that are launching that are high quality, I think this will change the whole stigma and we'll advance to a different state.
Amazing.
Now, I read somewhere that your aim for StrayShot was to become the most popular Web3 game in its genre.
Yeah.
What about the game do you feel should appeal to draw people away from your PUBGs or your other somewhat similar games to come and venture into StrayShot?
I feel like the whole way that we built the game. I mean, if you compare StrayShot on mobile to other AAA titles, and you say, okay, forget that there is like almost like a cult in certain games, right? But if you compare just visuals, right, then I think we're better. Yeah. And we get the feedback from that, right? It's not something that I say, it's what communities were like, wow, this looks very impressive. This looks much better than other games. So I would say the first experience to at least give it a try is there with the visual quality. And then comes the unique gameplay that we have. So in StrayShot, you're in this very tropical environment, which gives you I would say a Far Cry 6 or Far Cry 3.
When you were talking about the story, I had Far Cry in the back of my head there.
Yes, so you get this kind of vibe, right? And the environment is just absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So, and then you have this gameplay abilities where you can grapple hook and parachute around, right? Like in a really cool looking way. So it's like this exploration of the island is one aspect that we feel like it gives you an open world vibe, right? It's not an open world. I mean, the maps are huge, but it's not an open world game per se, but it gives you this vibe of it, right? So, and all of this paired together with this, in our opinion, very interesting meta game of it, right? Because other games don't have this sophisticated game loop where you level up this weapon because only this weapon you can take in this game mode right now, and then you might lose it again. So it's very competitive from that sense. I think I'm very hopeful that people will like it and players will like it.
Perfect. Now, wanted to talk about, we had Chris Meredith from Xsolla on here a few weeks back. And obviously it's been announced recently that you've gone into a sort of a partnership with them. So I kind of wanted to understand that partnership in a little bit more detail, how it's benefited iBLOXX and the development of StrayShot as well. Yeah,
I mean, first of all, Chris and Götzi, who are leading the MENA region here, absolutely fantastic guys and people to work with. So we're very fortunate to work with them. We're also thankful for their patience because they're not always getting the immediate answers from us, which is mainly my fault, I have to say. So apologies for that. But the partnership with Xsolla is amazing, right? I mean, Xsolla is the largest gaming commerce brand in the world, right? Like, I mean, they're massive, and I think it also shows that they're very very open to innovation. They also make strides in Web3 themselves. So working with them for us is fantastic, right? And they support us much more than just payments. I mean, Xsolla is the largest payments provider for gaming worldwide. I think they have, I don't know, is it like 300, 400, 500 or even more payment solutions, right? And with StrayShot Mobile, where we are like targeting also emerging markets, it's not that straightforward to get a payment solution for Indonesia or for Brazil or for Vietnam, right? Like so this aspect is super helpful for us, but we're doing much more with them. So we're currently looking into the Xsolla Mall for the web shops that we have, although we build our own, but we're trying to see, okay, how can we integrate that? Influencer campaigns with their network that they have. Yeah. So it's going to be a pretty strong collaboration, and we're very fortunate and grateful to partner with them.
And how important are collaborations like these, for blockchain gaming and kind of gaining that mainstream traction that you're looking for?
Yeah, vital, right? Because you cannot do everything yourself, right? So another differentiating factor of iBLOXX and StrayShot and what we're building versus previous Web3 games is we have a very corporate way of doing things. So we're obviously talking to all of these partnerships, right? And I'm talking, for example, large publishers. Right, so the publishers out there, I mean, some of them get 100 million downloads per month plus, right? And we're talking with all of these publishers currently, or with many of them, and we're hoping that we can have an announcement pretty soon in this direction, which will help us with user acquisition, right? But I mean, they're professionals, right? Like, I mean, they've been launching so many games, publishing so many games, and these partnerships are, in my opinion, you can't go without them. Right? Yeah, sure, you can publish yourself everything. Sure, you can do all of the things, but chances of success that you really get the word out are obviously larger if you publish, if you partner with these companies.
Perfect. So, StrayShot released on PC, mobile. That's iOS and Android. When can we expect that?
that's
Am I holding you to that?
That's the big question. So we're very close.
Yeah.
Very, very close. Obviously, we have been on PC in closed beta since 2 years. Yeah, GDC was the first prototype MVP that we have shown, GDC 2023 at that time. And since then, obviously, we've just trying to improve the gameplay and obviously the mobile focus, right? So the porting to iOS and Android is the most time-consuming part of that. We're right now going into security audits, right? Because everything needs to be secure, especially also with the Web3 aspect, but also from a Web2 side, right? Anti-cheats, super important in shooter games, right? We've seen it with, new launches of shooter games, right? I mean, Black Ops 6 or Delta Force Hawk Ops, which just came out. Cheating is massive, right? Like I think especially Delta Force Hawk Ops is doing a good job there. So these are the things that are all preparing for the go live. So I don't want to give a specific date, but it's definitely going to be in end of this, beginning of next quarter, in this range. So we're very close.
So H1. We'll go with H1 as an answer.
H1 is a good answer.
There we go. Perfect.
Yes.
And for people listening who are perhaps curious about blockchain and this space, but have not really investigated it, what would you kind of say to them? To
the skeptics. What are you going to say to the skeptics to say, come and give this Web3 game or blockchain game a chance because this will change your mind?
Yeah. I would say they will have no choice. No, at the end of the day, right? Like, and in my opinion, they should not even say, oh, this is a blockchain game and this is a traditional game, right? That we will go away from that.
Yeah.
That will not exist in 10 years anymore.
Yeah.
Because my strong belief is everything will be in some shape or form utilizing blockchain technology because it's just too many benefits, right? But what I would tell to them is, I mean, just play StrayShot then or any other title that you're interested in Web3. In Web3, there's not that many titles yet that can compete probably with Web2. But just be open-minded, right? Because it's technology itself. Technology is there to provide benefits for the users, essentially, right? And it's always good to be up to date. So whether you like it or not, you will touch Web3.
Yeah,
that will happen, right? With you, without you, doesn't really matter, right? But if you're open-minded, I think it's always better.
Yeah, I think we're really excited about this launch. It's going to be probably the biggest thing that's come out of Dubai from a game, and I'm hoping that it's going to help put Dubai on the map of what can be developed and what can be launched from this region. So I know that us guys are very excited for this coming to the market.
Oh, no pressure, huh?
No pressure, no. I'll blame you if it all goes wrong. But we also then want to touch on your background in gaming, where that love come. You mentioned earlier, obviously, 5-6 years old, really sort of getting into those early titles. So we kind of go through the segment with everyone that comes on, because I'm always keen to explore this bit. And I always find this is one of the more fun parts of the show is what was the first gaming, and I'm going to say not console, but gaming system that you probably owned?
I mean, owned myself or part owned with brother and neighbor, right? The first one was Commodore C64. Right, okay. This was where I played Maniac Mansion.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic game. Secret of Monkey Island. I think I played that also on a Commodore, or was that? No, that was a 386 at that time. MS-DOS these times, right?
Yeah.
So big floppy disk times and so. So these were literally the first ones, and then self-bought. The first bought machine was later. That was then the PS2, I think, at that time, because there was a period where I was always playing with friends, right, at neighbors or at certain electronic stores where they were starting to sell computers and stuff like that. But then I think Prince of Persia was one of the Sands of Time at that time. Early, I think that was end 90s, beginning 2000s, something like that, if I remember correctly. So I would say my first own console was like literally the PS2 at that time, but it's because I didn't need it, because we were every day at our neighbors and friends, right, gathering together, playing together. Right? So
no, I was intrigued on that one. Obviously, my first console I had experience with, or system, was a Commodore 64 as well. I was at my grandparents. Around there, I had games such as like Fire Trap and stuff like that, which scale in the building, trying to put out fires, saving people. Graphics, when you look back at it now, absolutely terrible. Kids nowadays, I know it's my birthday today and I sound old for it, but kids nowadays absolutely spoil in terms of what they've got, like in terms of games. But then my next question was going to be kind of, did you start Sony, or did you go obviously Xbox or Sega? And that's always I'm intrigued as directions.
Oh no, that's actually true. I had a Sega as well. So I had a Sega. Sega was the first one. So, but I was agnostic, right? Because I just wanted to play the good games. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's like just like today. I mean, today I would certainly say I'm more a PS5 guy than an Xbox guy. I have a PS5 at home, of course. I don't have the Pro yet. I think the normal PS5 is doing it good for me.
Yeah.
But that's in the past for me.
And what was the sort of first game that you fell in love with?
It was Maniac Mansion and Secret of Monkey Island, right? Like these action adventure games were those that I really loved. And then of course early came shooters. I played Wolfenstein, the Return to Castle Wolfenstein on the Commodore.
I remember that.
Yeah, so
I was probably too young to be playing that. But I do remember that.
I was also too young.
But those early day shooters, when you look at that, you look at your Dooms, your involvements into stuff like Duke Nukem and stuff like that, and the real early stage. And then it transferred into kind of like GoldenEye was kind of the next big sort of shooter games, and that's what then inspired the likes of a Halo and everything like that. Those very early stage, very blocked graphic shooters, they were fantastic. And some of those IPs, like a Doom, they've got a new game coming out this year, I believe. So for that to still have such power in the industry is testament to what they created there. So that's obviously going all the way back to the early days. In the last decade, what would you say your most favourite game has been that came out?
Wow, that's so difficult.
It's a tough question.
Right. I mean, it's probably a mix between GTA, and I don't know, Uncharted, you know,
Yeah.
because I like these two genres. This is also, you see this in StrayShot.
As soon as you said
Right.
Uncharted, I'm going straight into that
Right,
sort
like-
of tropical,
And it's also
South
this-
American type.
This adventure style,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I think this is what shaped it a bit, but it's very hard to say. I mean, the one game that I'm really looking forward to is obviously GTA 6,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's going to be the most massive game ever released. I mean, everybody agrees on that, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's one that I'm really looking forward to, apart from, of course, StrayShot.
Yes, obviously you have to include that in there. But I saw estimations today that I think it was yesterday that they're predicting that GTA 6 will make 3.2 billion
Yeah.
in estimations,
Yeah.
which
It's
is.
extraordinary sums.
I think development sums are over $1 billion
Yeah.
from what I read, and
Yeah.
so looking at probably almost 2/3 profit on the development costs, which for a game of that size is huge. But
Massive.
it's also then what does that have knock-on effects for the industry from what they bring into that game? Because it's always a trendsetter. So
Yeah.
it's the one to watch, isn't it? Whatever Rockstar launch normally sets trends for the next 2-3 years or so.
What do you think would happen if GTA, there's obviously rumors that GTA might have crypto involved, there's just rumors, nothing confirmed. What do you think would happen if they would have crypto inside?
I think that would be a huge catalyst for people to forget about the stigma that we're talking about, because it's all very well people having judgment
Yeah.
and opinions on around stuff. But I think when you have a game that large that everyone has been waiting a decade for,
Yeah.
if it's in there, people will soon forget that it's even a thing, because they'll go, oh, did I say that? I don't care anymore because I want to play GTA 6. Like,
Yes.
They could put anything in GTA 6 that they want. I will pick it up and play it. Simple as that. Because
Agreed.
I've been waiting. I was a huge fan of the original GTA.
Yeah.
The pixelated cars on a keyboard.
Yes.
Huge fan of that. GTA London, which
Yeah.
obviously being from the UK, that was great. And it was obviously when you run someone over or you died, it was your brown bread. It used to come up on the screen.
Yeah.
All the way through to San Andreas, Vice City, and all the way through. So for me, throw it in there. And I'm not don't get me wrong, I'm not a crypto guy. I don't have a wallet.
Yeah.
I don't have Bitcoin. I've missed the boat on that massively, which obviously I regret. But still, for me, it's a new technology still. And we, as part of our business, have a Web3 and a blockchain guy that does our recruitment within that space. And hearing him talk about the industry and the certain areas of it, and layer 1s and layer 2s and zero knowledge and all this,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know what he's talking about. So it's still a new age technology for me. If it was incorporated in and I had to get on board with it, so be it. I would. So I think that if, and a big if that is part of
course.
it,
Clearly.
then I think it could
Yeah.
open people's eyes to it.
No, I mean, it's a massive if, right?
Yeah.
But there are some discussions, rumors from whoever, right?
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, what if? Right?
Yeah.
If that would really happen, right? Like, I think it would change a lot. Yeah.
Definitely. So the last game you purchased?
I mean, I purchased a couple of games recently, mainly for, looking, okay, hey, how are we comparing to them in terms of gameplay mechanics and so. I think mobile Assassin's Creed Mirage was just recently that I bought. I bought Helldivers too in the past. I'm mostly buying assets in free-to-play games, to be honest. Right? So I play a lot of free-to-play games because I feel like pay-to-play will struggle in the future. I don't see it as the main driver. I think free-to-play and then the evolution of free-to-play, where you redistribute some of the revenues in terms of assets, skins, and things like that to a community will establish itself. But that's mainly what I'm doing. Yeah.
Okay. When we talk free to play, have you obviously the big one on everyone's lips at the moment is kind of Marvel Rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Have you explored that at all?
I've only played it for like an hour or so. It's obviously quite unique. I love the individual character abilities. I think they did a fantastic job there.
Yeah.
Right. Every character sticks out, but I've only played it maybe an hour. Right. And a great game. Right?
Yeah.
Perfect game.
Yeah. I've not. I foolishly downloaded it onto my Steam Deck, and it was just carnage. I couldn't work out what was going on, so I need to jump on the PS5 or something like that and download it and spend some time on it, because again, only heard good things from what they've developed over there.
Yeah.
And you kind of maybe then touched on that, but about what you're currently playing at the moment, I'm guessing is very heavily into titles similar to what it is that you're going to be releasing.
Yeah, I mean, played. I participated in the beta of Delta Force Hawk Ops Mobile.
Yeah.
Right, it was like, wow, stunning game, like absolutely. Right, but I mean, Timmy Studio is massive, right, with Tencent. But all the shooters, essentially, even older ones, right, where we look into it and we feel like, okay, why did we like that game or that game so much, right? And try to reflect on these things. So I don't know, I played pretty much every shooter out there right now in the previous times, but that's also because of a different, like right now, you know, once we started developing StrayShot, the focus shifted from, you know, playing a game purely out of fun to playing a game where you're like, wow, I really enjoy, but why do I enjoy that so much, right? Like, what's the reason for that, right? So this is essentially in the past now.
I have to say, I'm very, very excited about StrayShot. Yeah, I'm just listening to you has kind of got me thinking a lot about blockchain and kind of like, you know, this collaboration between these two different areas, and just kind of, it's not an area I've really kind of dived into too much, but yeah, I'm really intrigued about this now. So
thank you, and I can promise you will not feel the blockchain part.
Okay.
Like to you, it will be like, okay, where's the blockchain? And then you have to look for it, and you're like, oh yeah, here's a wallet. Oh, okay. And if you know, then you can go on the Explorer and check all the transactions and everything. But if you have never touched blockchain, so John, I mean, you can play StrayShot without any limitations.
And I think that for me is the part that I'm looking forward to, of picking it up, exploring it, and spending time on it. And if it doesn't come up and slap me in the face, then that's what you need from those types of games. Because, as you mentioned, when you've got your play to win, play to hash, it's very it's very crypto, not just Web3, but crypto. Yeah. And it's all about tokenization and how much the coins are and everything like that. That's when I think it becomes a turn off. Yeah. But if it, like you mentioned, it's implemented in there from a subtle standpoint that as a casual or a skeptic type gamer, and you can't see it, then I think that's a blessing in disguise and will encourage more people to pick it up. So again, I'm very intrigued. Obviously, I've seen the game from what you've shown me previously. And it does look fantastic, and I think the fact that you've used Unreal Engine to build that shows. It's not a Unity-based game. The graphics are of that quality that you would expect on a console or on a big system. So I think that that's going to draw a lot of people in, and the narrative, for me, sounds really exciting. I think that South American cartel vibe has been somewhat explored in games, like you mentioned, your Far Cry's, your Uncharted, but not a lot. Most extraction shooters are very similar in an expense. You either go sci-fi or you go traditional extraction, Warzone type game. So I think the fact that you've taken that game and put it into a different destination creates a different appeal. And I think you've then translated that in the visuals aspect of it, the sun shining, the greenery, etc. Very different. So I'm looking forward to it myself.
Thank you.
Perfect. We've come to the end of the show. So thank you very much for coming in and joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Telling us and telling everyone about StrayShot. We're really excited. Hopefully everyone watching will be from this as well. And we'll be anxiously counting down the days until we see it. Obviously, we're not going to hold you to anything, but fingers
H1
crossed,
you can hold me to.
I'm going to hold you to H1.
You can hold me to H1. Yes.
So we're looking forward to it. But thank you very much for coming in and spending the time with us today.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Perfect. And thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that, and get StrayShot on your wish list and keep an eye out for it and download it and play it the day it comes out. So thank you very much and see you soon.